Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on Masechtas Gittin Daf Lamed Hey, we're going to begin on the bottom of Lamed Daled Lamed Beis by the new Mishnah. Says the Masnisa, Ein almad nifras minichse yisomim, that a woman whose husband died, she cannot collect her ksuba from the yisomim el b'shvua. Says Rashi, shul niskabel klum. She would make a shvua in order to be able to say that I never received anything from this ksuba and therefore I'm entitled to it. However, it says that nimnu mil hashpia. They eventually refrain her from being able to make such a shvua, and we'll see why, but Rashi says, V'hais mafsedes ksubasa. The problem is she would end up losing out her ksuba, because since she would be required to make a shvua, and as we'll see why we're concerned of her making this shvua that may not be accurate and true, so therefore she's not able to collect anything. And therefore, Hiskin Rabbi Gamliel Hazachin Shehe Noderes Liyasaimim Kol Ma Shiyirtzu. So that instead she could make this neder to the Yisomim, says Rashi, Yivachro Lahem Davar Kasha, to request them something difficult. Lahadira Bo Kagon Kainim Mini Mazainis Alai, making a neder regarding Mazonos, Im Nehanesim Iksubasi, if I derive any hana from my ksuba. So basically, you're making this neder, which is linked to the ksuba. And then by doing that, we're going to allow her to collect the ksuba. Says Rashi, if she was mekabel first, harihi neseres b'chol mazain, she'll be usher to food. Hilkach havi hadara v'shakol dul chashidol aver al nidra. There's no way that she's going to make this neder, because a person is not going to make a false neder. Okay, we'll understand the logic why this is better. Ha'edim chaismin al get mimnei tikkun oilam. The reason why we have edim signing, as Rashi says, all these takanos are will, and why we have witnesses signing on a get is because of tikkun oilam. Says Rashi, akul koi. This is going on everything. Gabi almana shihu nashim nesuos lobalim v'lotid gana lahasid ksubasa and gabi chaismin. All these different things are connected to tikkun olam, as we'll explain. The Hillel Hiskin Pruzbal Mene Tikkun Olam, which we're familiar with the Pruzbal, which is connected to Shemitah, which we've discussed before. If you have a private loan, there's Shemitah's Ksofim. However, in the event of a Pruzbal, even though normally the Shemitah is Mishamet the loans, not when it comes to a Pruzbal, as we'll discuss. Let's see the Gemara. So, Ma'iri Almana. Why do we say that, Almana cannot collect unless a shua is made? I feel kuli almanami. This is regarding any payment for anyone. You can only collect from Yisomim with a shua. So why are we pinning out and specifically talking about an almana? This din is for everyone. So you're right. But almana tzrichale. You would maybe think maybe there's no chiyuv for her to make a shua at all. Why? As we continue on Mishum China Akil Rabbanan Gaba Kamashmon. Because of Chain. Says Rashi, Shehei Chain Ha'anashim Be'eni Hanashim Linasalhem. We encourage women to marry, and therefore maybe we're not going to require her to have to make a shvua. Because if she knows that she has to make a shvua and there's all these difficulties of collecting a ksuba, so maybe she's not going to want to even get married. So therefore, because of that, maybe we're going to have a different law when it comes to an almana, that she can collect the nichsei yisayim even when on a shua kamashmal, that even when it comes to her, the din is the same. So nimnu mishmashpia. But then eventually we said, no, we're not going to have her make a shua anymore. So my tami ilim mishum de Rav Kahana de Rav Kahana b'yamar. Some say it was Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rab Masabada Mach. There was a story b'shnei b'tzaris in time of a famine. Shehifkid dinar zahav eitz almana, that someone gave a pikadon, left money by a widow, then and she placed it in flour. The afaso b'pas, she baked bread, and in the bread was this coin. The nasno ani, and then she ended up giving this loaf to to a poor person. So Yomim, as time went by, Baal Hadinner, the one who left the coin in which she was supposed to be watching, came. V'yarmala, and he said to her, Havili dinari, give me my money, give me my coin. Samrle, so she said back to him, Yehenna sam hamavis be'echad miboneha shel oisi isha, that the sam hamavis, which is like poison and death, should come upon this woman, im nehanesi medinarcha klum, if I derived any hana from your coin. Now she's saying, I received no pleasure from this coin. So this is the shvua that she said, basically saying, I swear to you by my children that I did not get any hana. Samru lo hayu yamim mu'atim, it wasn't much time afterwards that shemei sechem emaneha, one of her children, as she cursed herself, this took place. When they heard about this, Amar ma mi shenishba be'emes kach hanishba shekel achs kama kama. This woman, she made a shvua truthfully. It says Rashi deha shogegasi minisha einish shvua meruba nimnu mo'ashpia, is not something to take lightly, a shvua. And therefore, if it was a shvua sheker, even though it was done against her will, she ended up baking it over there. So in that situation, we still see she gets punished, even though it was a shvuas emes. So then, nonetheless, over here, where there's a good chance that this woman may lie, as we'll see why the almana would maybe make up a shvua. So therefore, we don't want to make a shvua. So my time answer. So why was there a punishment here at all? The answer is dishtar she lo makam dinner. So that there was actually the place of the dinner itself. So what does that mean? She actually gained that the place where the coin was in the dough took up space, and she was able to give less dough in total to the ani. So she did end up getting hana from this coin. It's interesting enough. So that's the logic behind this. So mi shenishba be'emes. What does it mean saying a shuas emes? It's not true. She did get hana then. That's kimi shenishba be'emes. It's ki'u, like she was truthful. So imisham if that's based on that story, so my iri almana. Again, why are we talking about a widow? I feel grushanami. We shouldn't make any distinction between the almana or grusha regarding to make a shua. Alama im Rabbi Shmuel, but he does make a distinction. It's the loshim almana. The only time we say a woman should not make a shua is dafka if she's a widow. Of a gerusha mashpina isa, but if she's a gerusha, she got divorced and she's collecting her ksuba, we could have her make a shvu in that situation. So what's the difference? So there is a huge difference. Almana shiny dihahi hana de katarcha kameyasmi asli urui hatera. So because she's going to rationalize in her mind, and she's going to say, you know what, I was taking care of all these kids. So therefore, even though the truth is I may have gotten already something from the ksuba, but the reality is I've done so much for these kids, these yisomim, so therefore she may end up not saying the truth. Question number 1. Ma'ishna almana habali li'par that we refrain her from making a shvua, but not by gerusha. So almana torachas min yisomim. She's going to take a lot of trouble taking care of these yisomim. Mamar heter, she's going to make an excuse for herself, l'shavash kibla, to say she didn't get anything for the ksuba, afal pi she kibla. Even though she did get something, but she was schar tircha. Yeah, but it was because of the hard work. So I was compensated for my hard work. Mashkin gerusha deno tarachas. When it comes to a gerusha, she's not going to be matriach for these kids. Okay, fine. So with that said, says Rashi again, bedavar muat v'savar she'in piroyin la shebeschar tarcha notalta. So I'm just getting the scarf from my tircha. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rab Yirmiyah Barabba Rabbi Shmuel Deber Tavai. They both say that lo shana will be based. The only time we say this din is dafkin a based. So the saying that we're not going to allow her to make a shvua is dafkin a bastin. Outside of a bastin, it's not a problem. Says Rashi, sheshvuas hadayanim shel tayrahi, because if it's in a bastin, that's a din tayra. That's very strict. V'nakat sefer Torah b'yadei or tefillin. You have to actually hold onto a sefer, something davar shebkedusha. Umashpin lo b'shem or b'kino. You have to say Hashem's name. But when it's chutzah based in, it's not as strict, and therefore the curse will not be as strong. Chutzah based in mashpin oisa. Eini it's not shov v'arav lo magvi ksuba lo armalata kasha. So it says that Rav did not allow the almana to collect. It says Rashi Mishum din nimnu hashpia, because she was not allowed to make a shvua. But if that's the case, let her just make a shvua outside the base and collect. Gosh, that's a good question. Okay, so I get that was a question. Let her make a shvua outside of the base and collect. So that's a good question. So Basura Masni Hachman and Da Masni Hachman. Nardo is a little bit different. They said like this: Amar Bihud Amar Shmuel Lo Shmuel Elba Basin. The only time we say this is in the basin of a chutzah basin mashmiyan oisa. However, outside the basin you could make a shvua. However, that's according to that sheet. If a rabbi no, I feel chutzah basin nami mashmiyan oisa. Even outside, we're not going to allow to make a shvua. Rabbi Tamei Durav loy magik suvasalar malta, because we see that he didn't allow her to be able to collect since she didn't make a shvua, and therefore it doesn't make a difference in Beis Din or even outside of Beis Din you can't make a shvua. Okay, so Gemara says, well, 1 second. Let's not forget what our Mishnah said. Li adra v'ligbayo. Let her make a neder and then let her collect. Says Rashi, as we saw in our Mishnah, no daras liyasemim kol mashi yirtzu. So the answer is Mishnei de Rav Kili Nidre. In the time of Rav, Nidarim there were lax. Kalim hoyu Nidarim, says Rashi b'neihem lavar alehem. They used to violate Nidarim left and right. Hilka chlusam china nadidra gavayu. So that there was a different generation. In the generation of Rav, unfortunately, people were lax in Nidarim. So therefore, this notion of her making a neder is not going to mean anything either. So there's a story, a person went to Rav Huna, Amrullah said to her, Ma evedlech, so what can I do for you? The Rav, I know you want to collect and you want to make a shvua, but Rav said you can't do it even outside of basin. So Amrullah, Midihu Taima Ella Dilma Nikitna Midi Miksubasi. The only reason why I said this is because maybe I already collected from the Ksuba. So Chai Hashem Savakais. So she ended up making a shvua on her own. She was koifetzes. Even Hanesim Ksubasi Klom. I swear I didn't do anything. So I'm Rabbi Guna, Moide Rabbi koifetzes. Says Rashi Hoyel the cups of a nishba. We didn't tell her to make a shvua, but she initiated. She was proactive. So in that situation, she can now, the shvua means something and she could collect. Hahiyas the asoy l'kemei de Rabba bar Rav Huna. So Amar Lo said, what can I do for you? The Rabba lo magusol malta or malta. Again, you said you can't collect. The Abba Mari lo magusol malta. Again, an almana can't make a shvua. So Amar Le havli mezayni give mezaynis. So Amar Lo mezayni nami leislach. You're not entitled to mezaynis. And then Rabbi Yehuda Mar Shmuel had toivas ksubasa bebeistin. As soon as you collect, you start claiming it in a basin, which you did in a mezaynis. So once you claim your ksuba, you no longer get mizono, so therefore you can't get that either. So Amalei afachuha lekursei. I'm going to turn over a chair. So it literally means kebei trei avda avdali hafachua lekursei v'tertsua. Now, flip over the chair and put it up. If you'll hachi lo ifruk mechulsha. Says Rashi, Havchul l'chorsa v'tirtza, Hivchul kisai v'zikfuhu, Kadesh skayim haklala bekach, that this klala should be meskayim. Okay. Basically, she's saying, Tishafel gedulasa, you should fall from your greatness. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yirmiyah, Yafil hachi lo ifrak mechulsha. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yirmiyah biyara, Adra Beis Din, if she made a neder in Beis Din, or Va'ashva Chutz Beis Din, or she made a shvua outside of Beis Din, V'leisi Kala, and a coal will be produced, V'lipo B'oidni, and it'll come out by the ears, D'inna Kehechad Avid Ba Maisa, says Rashi, Kol Mash Yirtzu Yasaimim, this neder, V'lifuk B'udni, Chefetz Ani Shiyishma, Okay, good. Getting back to what we said before. So Amar Rab Zera, Amar Shmuel Lo Shanu Ela Almana. The only time we say that she cannot make a shvuah is if it's an almana. Of a gerusha mashminaisa. As we said, when it comes to a gerusha, in which we're not concerned of her rationalizing it, so in that situation, she could make a shvuah. A gerusha de agra lo. So we're saying gerusha to make a neder, no. I was sent the following quote: Ich plonisa bas ploni kabus gita min yada de achabar hedya. How could this woman, Ploinisa Mas Ploinis, be makabel this get? The Miskari Aya Mori, which is called by that name. And it says, the Nadart, it says explicitly, and she made a neder yasart perish ba'olam Allah. Do kabilas miksubasa. Not to collect the ksuba. Ela galufkara echad, but there was this one coat. The Sefer Tehillim Echad, one book of Tehillim, the Sefer Iyam, Umemshelos Beluim, and these different Sefer Kodesh that were worn out as we continue to Lamed Hey Amid Beis. And then it says, V'shamnum, we evaluated them, b'chamisha mana, that's how much they were evaluated as, and Likishit Tavai Liyenchem Hagbuha Es Hashar. So, in this situation, we see that the Yasam gave her. So let's look at Rashi. Havi Yasam lefenenu v'shamned mehim. We evaluated it. So Omer Rabashi hahu get yavamim havoy. The Yavam gave her a get to passel her from doing yibam with any of them. Says Rashi. Yavama hi zeh shenasan get l'poisel al achen. So again, normally when a woman dies childless, instead of doing yibum, you can do chalitza. But if the brother gives a get, that will passel her from being able to potentially do yibum with any of the brothers. That's what ends up happening. It says Rashi, "V'hi ba ligvos ksuba minechse bala harishon." Her goal was to collect the ksuba from her first husband, shinis armana himena, because she was a widow from him. So that's the situation. So Rabbi Gamliel said that she can make a neder. Says the Gemara, the only time she can make that neder is dafka if she did not marry someone else. If let's say she was already married to someone else, ein madirin oisa, we no allow her to make this neder. So nisis my taima. Why do we say that once she got married, we no longer allow her to make this neder? Because the mefer labal, because her husband can always just annul that vow. So she's going to make a neder, and therefore, based on this neder, it's such a strong neder, it must be she's telling the truth, and therefore she's entitled to get her ksuba. But if she's married now her husband has the authority to be able to be made for her neder, and therefore it doesn't mean anything. So for Gemara, so kionisis nami lechim mansaba made for global. So understand, even if let's say she's not married now, but eventually when she does get married, she'll be able to have her neder annulled anyway. She'll be by her husband. So where it says in habal made for bekoidman, that won't work. So if she already did the neder and then she got married, so the husband doesn't have the authority to be able to remove any nedarim that took place prior to their marriage. That's being made for bekoidman. So therefore, that's why we can make this distinction. If she was married, so then now she can make this. If she makes the neder, the problem is the husband could always remove it. But if she makes the neder while she's not married, even if she gets subsequently married, that's not going to do anything. So let's say she's not married. But isn't there another concern? Okay, her husband can't annul, but she can always go to a chacham and have her removed. The chacham will refuse to annul the neder she used to collect her ksuba, because she has to explain it to him, and therefore he's not going to end up doing it. So Rav Nachman says, even if she's already married, you can still do so. Can't the husband remove the neder? Nises vaday mefer. So nises vaday mefer labal. The husband's never going to remove it. Your answer is the mahadrin lo barabim. The neder has to be done barabim. And if the neder is done barabim, no longer does the husband have the authority to be able to remove such a strong neder. Beisvei, what are you talking about? We have a question. Nises that if she's married, goyve ksubasa, she can collect a ksuba. Im nadra, if she made a neder, my love nadra hashta, right? Sounds like she is making a neder now, after she's already married. Lo, the nadra mikara. She made a neder before. She made a neder and then she only got married afterwards, so the husband can't remove that neder. If she got married and then makes the neder, v'gavik subasa, tanahi. Zashmachos. The ikolama di aimer neder shehuda barabim yesh lafar. The ikolama di aimer ainul hafara. So there's a machlokus whether or not, if the neder was done in front of everyone, whether or not at that point the husband will have any authority to be able to remove such a neder. So if he doesn't have the ability to be able to remove the neder, so then maybe she should be able to collect the ksuba based on this neder. Okay, so that's how we answer this. Question 2. Almana hatoivas ksubasa acher shenises. An almana who wishes to collect a ksuba after she got married, heim goiva, will she collect it? And what's the studim? So it's a machlokas tanoim. Question 2. Why can't she collect? She made a neder. Why? Because her husband could easily just remove it. Hudra al das rabin, even if it was done in the presence of others. She could still collect the ksuba. Al das rabin de enu hafara. That the husband doesn't have the authority to be made for such nedarim, and therefore because of that, the neder stands, and therefore the neder is strong, and therefore because of that, she's probably telling the truth, and therefore she can collect her ksuba. Iboihu. Sarach apardes a neder o enu sarach. The question is it necessary to explain the neder that was being made? So Rav Nachman oimer enu sarach. Rav Papa oimer sarach. So we have a machlokes whether or not it's necessary to explain to the chacham the neder that was made. Now, you don't need if you actually do need to. Maybe she won't describe it fully. He's only going to be able to annul that which he hears. So if we're going to say it's all up to the individual to be able to explain clearly all the details, so maybe that person is not going to explain all the details well, and therefore it becomes problematic. Says Rashi, the guys l'dibur ve'enu mefarish hakol. You may not explain everything, so therefore it must be that you don't need to do so, because otherwise it's almost like you're setting this person up to fail, because there's a very good chance they're not explaining everything. Rav Papa omer sarich. Rav Papa says no, you do need to be mefarit. Why? Mishum milsa di surah. Because of the matter of Isser. Says Rashi, Shema al davar Isser nadra. Maybe the neder is based on something of an Isser. Like what? Kagon al gibik suba. Regarding her collecting the ksuba. Ukagoin. Yasr alai kol perishiba oilam. I'm going to not allow myself to eat any of the fruits in the world. Im ever avera. If I violate this sin. Ubola hateres nidro. Now she wants to violate the net. She wants to have the net removed. She wants to violate and do a sin. So certainly in that situation, we wouldn't want her to do that. Tanah. So we learn as follows. It says in B'chayris, Hanais in Noshim ba'avera, a person married a woman ba'avera, says Rashi Kigon. You have a Kohen, Hanais in Noshim b'sula, so kahuna apostle avoida. So you have a Kohen who marries women who are puzzle. So we say puzzle an shiyidr hana. So we say he's puzzle until they make a neder of hana from her. What is that neder? Legarsha, that he's going to divorce her. So he's going to be puzzled to avoda until he makes that neder to say that he's going to divorce her, basically. Some say that he made the neder hana ba'oived avot, and he went and did the avoda. Says Rashi Shadain lo girsha, he didn't even divorce her yet. Yared umigarish, so he has to go down from the avoda after he completes, and he needs to divorce her. As a neder, if you want to tell me that he doesn't have to explain it, maybe the chacham is going to just annul it. But again, if it's connected to an avera, then that neder should stand, and the chacham would never allow it just to be removed. So therefore, it must be you do need to explain. As we continue the Lamed Vabonal, the Mahadrinan lay. So how do we understand this then? The answer is the Mahadrinan lay barabim. that demadirin la barabim, that the neder was done barabim, and that's not something that could be removed. So but again, even if it was done barabim, maybe the husband still has the right to be able to move it, and therefore the fact that she made a neder shouldn't mean anything because the husband's going to remove that neder. The answer is yeah, but there are exceptions. The bahadrin la al das rabim. If it was done al das rabim, says Rashi, Kach Yamrulo Hari Anu Madirim Oischa Al Datenu, based on your consent, on your knowledge. And that much Al Das Rabin, in that situation, the husband does not have the authority to remove it. The Omer Maimer, Hilchasa, Afil Madir Neder Shehuder Barabim Yeshua Hafara, even according to the one who says that a neder which is made in public, you could still have the husband remove it. Al das rabim enu hafara. If it was done al das rabim, then the husband no longer has that authority. That's only when we're dealing with matters which are not mitzvah related. Even al das rabim, if there is a mitzvah connected to it, we will be able to have that neder removed. How do we see that? Kiahu makri dardiki. There was a person who taught young children the adri of acha al das rabim. He actually made a neder that he should no longer be engaged in teaching children, because he was hitting children. It says Rashi, it was done excessively, that he was engaged in corporal punishment, which was unacceptable. And therefore they said, al das rabim, he's not allowed to be a teacher anymore. However, Vahadri Ravina, nonetheless, he was reinstated, which means they removed the neder. Why? Because we couldn't find anyone as good of a teacher as him. We weren't happy about the way he was treating the children, but then afterwards we realized that he actually was the best educator around. But we were in a little bit of a trouble, because the reality is that it was done al das rabim, and therefore you're not allowed to be mefer. True, but that's only a devar rishus. However, this is a case of a devar mitzvah, and therefore we make an exception. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's see question TA3. Hiskin Rabbi Gamliel Hazakan Shehin Noderos. Madua in Choshil Hefer Labalwa Oshetishol Chacham. All right. So why are we not concerned, which is Lavan Hamid Bays, of the husband removing this neder? So he says like this. So Rav Hu and Iri Bishul Nises, because we're talking about a case where the husband, she didn't get married yet, right, and she can't have it removed. Because ein habal mefer b'koidmin. So if she made a neder before she was married and then got married, the husband is no longer able to have that removed. And for a chacham, we're not choishish. The sarach lifrot haneder. You need to explain the reason for it, and once they find out your reason, they're not going to remove it. And according to Rav Nachman, Iri af benises of a mahadrin lo barabim. We're talking about even if she was already married, but nonetheless, since it was done barabim, no longer does the husband have the ability to have the neder removed. Question TB4. Almana hatoivas ksuvasa achar shenises, an almana who wishes to collect ha'im goiva umastadim bezeh. So as we said, it's a tanai, which is so much question too. The husband can just simply have it removed, and that therefore it will be pointless. And Taisa says even if it's al das rabim. According to another mandir, that she could collect the ksuva mandirin al yisabah or al das rabim the enul hafara. It was done birabim or was done al das rabim, so everyone holds al das rabim if it was a davar rishus that the husband no longer has the ability to have it removed, and therefore that is a way that she'll still be able to collect the ksuba. Adkan.